Welcome to DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, so let's get started.
All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today we have special guest Erin Woodward. Erin, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well, but I am so excited to talk to you today. And why? Because you won the women's runDallas marathon. You won it.
Yep. It's surreal.
How does that feel?
It's still surreal. Doesn't really feel real, but the more I talk about it, the more real it becomes.
It's real. It's in the books. So that's pretty exciting. Tell me a little bit about that. I was reading or saw on your Insta that this was your only second marathon in 11 months. Is that right?
Yes. My first one was Houston back in January 2024. So right at 11 months.
Great marathon.
Yeah, I was.
So let's back up, and we're going to talk about runDallas plenty, but how did you get into running, and then what made you decide to do a marathon? And let's get to know you a little bit, Erin.
I started running in 8th grade. I was a soccer player.
Oh, that helps.
Yes. My dream was to be a collegiate soccer player, and then injuries came, and I was basically told, don't play soccer anymore. And luckily, a few of my best friends had started running cross country in 7th grade. So in 8th grade, I joined, and I have never stopped.
Okay, so you've been running for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't even know how many years that's been, but I focused a lot on the shorter stuff when I was younger, and then now 2 marathons under my belt.
Are you a trail runner too?
Yes, yes. I did my first trail race in 2023. And I did one about a month. I think it was right at a month before the Dallas Marathon. It's the same trail race. It's Dirt Circus in Bentonville.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. And yes, I definitely do think I have a bit of the trail bug. I've been exploring with that a little bit.
It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think you dive in, and road racing is fun too, but nothing like the trails. It's a different culture, different atmosphere. Did you see Rob Goyen out there?
Yes. I've been close with Rob for about a year now.
Okay, yeah. We know each other. He was on this podcast.
Yeah, actually. I saw that actually.
Okay. It's funny. He's got a great personality. He actually has more downloads than anybody right now.
Awesome.
He was just very well known in the trail community for years, especially in Texas. Anyways, enough about that. But so you did a little bit of running, obviously, in high school and middle school, and then did you start running half marathons or what? You said, did you run in college, you said?
Yes. So okay. I went to University of Central Arkansas, which is a smaller Division I school, about 45 minutes from where I grew up. So I still got to be close to home, but I was mostly on mile. I did some steeplechase, and then I also did cross country, so up to the 5K. But I always tell people it's funny that I run marathons now because my coach tried to put me into a 10K once, and I said I'd quit. Yeah. After college, I kind of tell people I burned out a little bit in college.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot.
Yeah, a lot going on in life. And so towards the end of my collegiate career, I started to pick up pace, get quicker, and I was like, I'm not done with this yet. So I just kept running. And
so did you do some half marathons before the marathons and all that stuff?
Yes, I did my first half. Let me think. It was maybe 2021.
Uh-huh.
I think that was probably
after COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
Ish.
So I've done probably 4 or 5 halves at this point, and some I've just been for training purposes, but I've done a few halves, but yeah, now I'm on to the fulls as well.
You obviously have a lot of talent. So when you're in college, super fast, I think you said, or you ran 2:47, is that right, in the runDallas?
It was right under. It was like,
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, 2:46. Perfect. So did you do you run 3 miles in college, or is it 4, or what's the college?
Yeah, so
run?
5K pretty consistently, 5K. And then 6K was our championship distance for conference, regionals, and everything. So
did you ever win, or?
Not individually, but my senior year we did win the Southland Conference Championship for cross country, and that was really awesome. I got to be captain of the team that year, and I got to be our first girl in, so that was really exciting. That's probably the cherry on top of the college career.
Yeah. Nothing like doing that at the end of college.
Absolutely.
But you have your doctorate degree, is that right?
I do. I have my doctorate of physical therapy.
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you're working with athletes and things like that. Is it when they're injured, or is it because you're also a coach too?
This year actually, me and 2 of my partners, we created Gray Matter Human Performance. We saw a need in the athlete sphere, but just in general healthcare, that you know, you need one thing, so you go to one doctor, and then they refer you to another, and then you bounce back and forth, and no one knows the full story. So we wanted to create a kind of a forum, a place where people could come and they can get full access to healthcare and also just like bettering themselves as an athlete. We like to say everyone's an athlete. So yeah, we offer coaching, which I'm one of our coaches, physical therapy, we have personal training, nutrition science, all that good stuff. And so yeah, I get the honor of being physical therapist and coach for a lot of people. It's been fun.
That's great. And is it something that you do both online and face to face, or is it just?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're based out of Northwest Arkansas, but especially like technology nowadays, you can do a lot virtually, and it's been fun to explore with that as well.
Great background, and I'm sure it helps that you're also an athlete. Like my wife is always, if I went to a physical therapist or a coach or something like that, I want somebody that's done there, been there, done that, and that's really great. You have the background, but you also have credentials, so that's pretty cool.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And hey, and I look, I don't want to say I stalked your profile, but I want to be halfway. I see that you're about to get married in a few months. Is that right?
I am about 4 months from now.
Okay, that's awesome. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I've been married for a long time, so it's a great adventure. Now you get to spend it with the person you love for a long time. Is he a runner or?
He is not. Actually, on our very first date, he asked me if I expected him to run with me, and I said no, he doesn't have to as long as he supports, and he said we have a deal, so.
There's nothing like, my wife's run Boston 11 times, and she's about to go to London for the first time. She's done some other world majors and things, and nothing like being the support person. I run, but I do a lot of supporting. I think that's important.
Absolutely. He's definitely my number one cheerleader, but
awesome.
It's been fun to teach him some of the running rules. He played college football. He has a very different athletic background, so it's been fun to teach him a little bit of endurance sports.
That's pretty cool, though. I love it. At least he has the sports-minded thinking. I think, believe it or not, I think that's important because you're going to spend a lot of time training and have somebody understand that. Now let's talk about that. You ran some half marathons. How'd you do in your half marathons? Have you raced them, or is it more? What's your kind of thought around the halves?
I've raced, I would say about 2 of them had a good taper and peaked for those. And then if the others have been pretty much training. So my first half was wonderful. It was a small local one in Conway, Arkansas, which is where I went, which is where University of Central Arkansas is. So that's also where I did my doctorate. And I had so much fun. And I was like, oh my goodness, am I going to start doing halves and full marathons eventually? Yeah. So I really have loved them. My most recent, I've done, I think, 2 halves this year. One, I had the flu the week of, so it was miserable. And then the last one I did, I guess back in October for some training.
I'm curious, what's your best time? Because you did win the marathon, so we already know the time there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would have got close this time, like at runDallas, because I think it was 1:15. So it's impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
And so you did your halves, and then what made you decide, okay, I'm going to go do my full marathon?
I think it was just inevitable at some point that I was going to do a full. Also, I think that the marathons are a really wonderful opportunity to travel, meet people. And also I had to cross it off the bucket list because when people are like, oh, you're a runner, they're always asking about marathon. And so I was like, I think it's time I do one. So that's what Houston back in January was, to get my feet wet with it.
I think Houston's a great marathon, half marathon. It's flat. Generally, not always. Weather is really good. Mm-hmm. I ran the half as well in Houston this last year, or back in January. So talk about, as you started running the full, talk about the training plan for Houston, but then as you ran that one, tell me how you did and felt and things like that. And then how did you prepare the next one? Was it like hugely different, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so leading up to Houston, I had just graduated with my doctorate. I had moved about 3 hours away from where I was living. So I had a lot of factors changing in my life. I was also working a full-time position as a physical therapist at a different outpatient clinic. And my training definitely suffered from all of that going on in life. I definitely did not hit the mileage I wanted to, but my experience at Houston was wonderful and obviously good enough to do it again. But Houston, everyone said, watch out for mile 20. It's where you'll hit that wall. And man, I hit that wall.
Wow.
It took me out hard. And all my family and friends said that my little tracker just looked like it stopped. It felt like it stopped.
I've seen it 100 times. A lot of people just don't understand until they run it, right? Like, and My wife has run several marathons, and you can tell she'll be killing it the first 16, 18, 20 miles. And every now and then she just hits the wall, and you're like, oh my God. Now she's at, she was hitting 7:10s, and now she's at 9:10s. What's
Mhm.
going on?
Yep, yep.
Or 10:10. So, when you look back at that, do you think, obviously, you mentioned some things were factors like getting your doctorate and moving and stuff like that, and the miles. Did you find that, hey, it was the miles that was the problem, or was it nutrition, or what would you?
Definitely a little bit of everything. I would say the biggest factors were the lack of miles and my
Yeah.
nutrition. I hadn't played around enough with it. My coach and I were really trying to figure it out more sporadically, and we didn't have enough time to dedicate to dialing that in. I also have gastroparesis, which is a fancy way of saying that my digestive system takes a really long time to get anything done. And so it's definitely been a big obstacle in figuring out my nutrition, which also did play a role in Dallas as well. So
Yeah, so that's something, especially with I assume with the longer runs like a marathon versus a half marathon, it's probably a little bit more difficult to figure that out. Is that right? Or
definitely, I can make it through in some of the shorter races and it won't have as much of an effect. But yeah, once you hit 26 miles, there's a lot of time for those factors to play a big role.
when you're going fast too, right? Anytime you're speeding across the road for a long period of time like that, it's going to affect you one way or another. And then especially with what you have. So what'd you change? Obviously, you probably ran some more miles and things like that.
Yeah, so definitely increased mileage. It was my highest volume training block on paper, and I felt it, but I had a lot of fun with it. So we did a lot of 3 hour long runs leading
Yeah.
up. I probably did 8 to 10 of those. Yeah, so that definitely helped. It helped my body get that tolerance to that many miles and that much time on my feet. And then I played around a lot with nutrition. So did a lot more kind of just general day-to-day nutrition. So measuring macros, things like that,
Yep.
as well as playing around with different gels and fueling during the runs.
When you think about the amount of miles, so you don't really look at the amount of miles, you just look at mostly hours on your feet, or how does that work?
For my coach and I have determined that time on feet and just going for hours, especially on those long runs, can be really helpful for me. I have a hard time going slow enough sometimes, which I think can be a
You're young, and that's just you'll learn.
Yep. And coming out of college, everything was just like going fast all the time. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
time on
It's a
feet
different
helps
mindset.
me slow down because I can keep going faster, but I'm just going to have to keep going. So it helps me have a little bit more self-control.
Can you talk a little bit about, I want to dive deeper into kind of the training, because a lot of people are like, she's just got a lot of talent and she's just super fast. You might have a lot of talent, but you have to hone in on that talent and you have to do the right things like training and eating right and all of those things. And so I'm trying to understand the amount of work and effort that you put into this training, that when you say, okay, I was running three hours, for you, that's probably almost a marathon, right? It's probably 20 something miles every single time. You do it 8 or 10 times. And then the speed stuff that you had to work on.
So we implemented double thresholds a lot throughout this training block, which I tried before, but I wasn't able to tolerate and get all of that in with my full-time job. So now that I'm my own boss, I'm able to move things around my training, which I love.
That helps.
It definitely helps. So my weeks are laid out pretty similarly throughout the block. We just change mostly the speed aspect. So we worked backwards. So we started with a lot of anaerobic capacity work, short and fast, and then we started getting into VO2 max work, lactate threshold, which is probably my least favorite, just because holding on to that lactate threshold pace is really hard. And my coach put those doubles on us, and the afternoons always fell right about August, I guess it was, so nice and hot.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was definitely.
I tell you what, heat training, it prepared you well for your Sunday.
Yes.
I think.
I had no clue. Obviously, we don't know what December is going to look like in Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
It was really just a gamble, but definitely needed that heat training because I think someone told me it was 98% humidity while we were running.
Sure was.
You could feel it for sure.
Yep. I just paced the 150, and usually it's a pretty easy run, but I felt it. And so how do you think about, like, your nutrition, what does that look like during, let's say, the race? What do you do?
So my plan did not go as planned for, say, Dallas.
Let's go back then. Let's talk about runDallas. You get ready
hmm
to run it. How are you feeling like during the race or before the race? Or by the way, did you think you had a chance to win it? Where was your mindset and all that kind of stuff? I'm
So
curious.
going into the weekend, I knew that my training block had gone as well as it
Pretty
can,
well.
all things considering. I
Okay.
knew this is probably the fittest I've ever been. I was very excited, but that also, I think that made me more nervous because I had these higher expectations of
Yeah.
myself. But then I got into Dallas on Friday and just the excitement. My training partners were there. My family was there. I had lots of friends in town. And then
That's awesome.
going to the expo, talking with other athletes, going to shakeout runs. I think the nerves were definitely still there, but I think it just got me so excited and reminded me like, this is why we all do what we do.
Yeah.
No one's going to just go run 26 miles if it wasn't for the community around it.
That's right.
So I started getting very excited. And then my coach was actually at cross country nationals with our senior high team.
Yeah.
So he called me on Saturday afternoon and we talked through a few things. And then I think you have a chance to win it. And that was the first time I was like, oh,
No pressure.
okay, yeah. He loves to throw out those lofty goals.
Who's your coach?
His name's Sean Weirich. He's based
Okay.
out of Northwest Arkansas here, which is partly why I moved here.
Oh, really? Because your coach?
Yes.
Wow.
So
You're pretty serious.
He owns Arkansas Track Club, and so we have little kids at like age 6 and 7 now, and then we have all the way up to our elite team. And between him and training partners in the area, I knew it was going to be a good move to come up here.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go back to I was just curious because kept talking about your coach, so let's say his name.
He told me basically, like, I think you have a chance to win. And he also told me that the pace I was aiming for was too slow and I needed to go faster. And so
What were you aiming for?
I was wanting to stay around 20 a little bit
Okay.
longer than I did. And he was like, I think you should see more 6:10s.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And one thing about him is he's almost always right, which
Yeah.
he's going to love hearing that.
I have to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I definitely have a problem with putting myself like in the position to win and believing myself and taking that chance, because I think I do have that fear of failure, which is what I think those nerves were like coming into the weekend. But man, that start line was so hype.
It's awesome.
It was just incredible. And I think I genuinely, all my nerves went away at that point, which normally the nerves go away during the race for me. But I would say that start line was so exciting that all my nerves went away and I just was ready to run.
Is that the biggest race you've ever ran, or have you run bigger races? Houston, I mean.
Houston, and then I did the Austin half maybe 2 years ago. But I still do feel like I'm new to some of these bigger races.
Yeah, you won runDallas. You won the whole thing, women's. So that was pretty impressive. So as you're going through the run, like how you feeling throughout? You mentioned you had some potential gut issues or whatever, but can you walk us through some of that?
Yeah.
And then the crowd and things like that, because I think Dallas has done personally, but way better over the last several years just in crowd support and just everything else.
Yeah, so first few miles, you're supposed to be comfortable.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to enjoy it, get out, shake off any of those nerves that might be there. And I'd say the first maybe like 10 miles, I was chatting with people. I was hitting all the signs the little kids are like, hit for a power up. I was having so much fun. I actually ended up chatting with a guy who's from Northwest Arkansas as well in the middle of the race. We just met.
Wow.
I know. It was like, this is a small world. I was with one of my training partners, Abigail, for a little while as well. So that was fun. And then I guess when the half and full split, started getting a little more lonely. I always see people. So that was a big blessing. And then I came through the half, still feeling great. I think I came through at maybe 122.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I was feeling great. And I was pretty lonesome, but there was a group, I think it was 3 guys. They were quite a ways in front of me, but just enough where I could keep an eye on them. And I was just like, don't lose them.
Stay with them.
Yes, just don't let them get out of your sight. And so all the way around the lake, hung there in a little bit of no man's land, but it wasn't too bad because even around the lake, there were some people out there.
Yeah, that's always when it gets a little bit, it's just not always easy to get to. Yeah. And so it always dies down there.
And so I would say about mile 15 is where it starts getting, your brain's kind of tired at that point, that fatigue starting to kind of kick in, but I was still feeling pretty good. And in my gels. My goal is every 10K. So I had taken one at 10 and 20, and then
What gel do you use?
I
Anything?
do I alternate. I really like Precision Fuel.
Okay.
I like their caffeinated ones because I have a caffeine addiction. And then I also alternate with the Martin hundreds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I use those as well. Do you drink coffee before the race, I assume?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I have to have my morning coffee. I think it's
Yeah.
like a ritual at this point. Get my brain turned on for the day.
But I assume you get up a couple hours early to go through a whole ritual of breakfast and coffee and all these things. Yeah.
Yep. I get up about 3 hours. I got up about 3 hours before the race. Had a few sips of coffee, and then I always attempt breakfast, but it's hard at that point. So I think I had half a bagel with some cream cheese, and then I had a package of oatmeal.
Okay. And I assume you guys stayed in Dallas, obviously.
We stayed right downtown so we could just walk over. Try to make everything as easy as possible, and my family helps me with that. So we're all about making the race morning super seamless and trying to take away any outside variables.
100%. Yeah. I like that. And did you know anybody from runDallas? Logan, Sherman, or any of the people there?
I really didn't know anyone.
How awesome is that?
Me and I have 3 training partners. One, she ran the half, and then 3 of us ran the full. And then I also had a few friends from the area who came down. I actually, lived in Dallas for about 3 months for a PT school clinical.
Yeah.
So I at least know the area. So it's fun to go on a run on the Katy Trail, which is where I ran all the time for those 3 months.
That's pretty cool. Do you think you'll do Dallas again?
Definitely. The crowd was amazing. Honestly, the whole way. The lake got a little sparse, but there were always people.
Yeah.
Everyone was so excited. And I think I smiled the first 10 miles of the race.
That's awesome.
Not smiling at the end, but
I love that.
Smiling at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I love that. It makes such a difference, especially at the beginning. The first half, I don't want to think about running. I just need to get the job done because my brain can really take over. So if I'm interacting with the crowd, reading the funny signs, all that kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier to let that get through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of the signs, I won't say them, but I was like, okay,
There's some comical.
Don't trust certain things, and I agree with that, especially after you're running a little longer. You had some of those signs in the beginning, and I'm like, all right, you ran 50 something, and 51, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was that kind of your goal, or did you surpass that goal, or what you're thinking there?
I ran a 2:46:22 in Houston.
I thought you said you got sick and everything else, but no, what? Oh my gosh.
I'm apparently very consistent with my 2:46s so far.
So oh my gosh, I think you're going to get way faster that next time.
Thank you.
What is next? How do you not think about it? Houston last year, or back in January, was a great day for a run.
It was.
I'm sure you remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were having issues.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine if you didn't have issues, what you might have done that day in Houston. But then Dallas, Sunday was tough condition. It wasn't like a walk in the park. So I'm not necessarily surprised. Well, I'm surprised that you didn't get a PR because of what you said you did. But now telling me the times, okay, you're going to get way faster than that.
Thank you.
That's great.
I guess my goal would have been to PR in Dallas, but especially talking with some of the other elites there and people who have run it before, it wasn't, and figuring out the weather, I didn't think it was necessarily going to be perfect conditions for a PR. And I think that also being competitive and just seeing, once my coach was like, I think you can win, I was like, okay. I wanted that to be more my goal. So I definitely have higher goals than a 2:46, but for now,
1,000%.
I'm very happy with how it went.
Yeah, because you're close to that elite level. In some marathons, you would be considered elite. Houston, maybe getting there. And I think you have the ability, it sounds. It's your second marathon. I've seen so many marathoners. I've been running for 12, 13, 14 years and been part of some running clubs. And it's fun to watch people, and it takes time to really progress. And just think, you've been running a long time, so there's that. And you have a coach, but you've been running marathons for a very short time. A year from now, you're going to progress even more. And you don't have to thank me. It's just the reality. If you keep doing it, that's just, and it sounds like you're extremely competitive, and that'd be exciting. I'll be watching you for sure. What's next for you?
On it, I'm not quite sure. I think my wedding is throwing a
Yeah.
wrench in our spring plans. I would probably, tentative plan is to switch to a little bit more track focus this spring.
Okay.
I'm on a little break right now, and I'm not going to complain about that. But yes, I will. The overall plan is to get back on the track. I feel like I have some unfinished business with steeplechase.
Huh?
So
Okay. Tell me more about that.
we don't do steeple in high school here in Arkansas unless you're with club, and I wasn't. I just ran for my school, and so I started steepling in college. But between a fractured tibia and
Oh,
a lot of other things, I had a partially ruptured Achilles, a lot of
jeez.
things in college. I ended up only steepling maybe 5 times in races, and then my senior year, or my super senior year, because COVID gave me that red shirt. So my 5th year, I had outdoor track again, so I got to steeple. And I had a very good race returning to steeple, and then it came to championships, and I finished, but just barely because I was having some medical issues with my gastroparesis diagnosis and everything. I definitely want to get back to that, and my coach agrees. We definitely think there's some unfinished business with steeple.
Tell me the steeple race stuff. What is that? You're out on the track and
Yes,
is it?
3-kilometer race. There are 35 barriers, 7 of which are the water barriers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when people always ask me, like, what's steeplechase? I'm like, you've probably seen the fail videos on Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
Where everyone falls into the water. And I was like,
That sounds fun, though.
it is so much fun. It keeps your brain, like, you have to be so focused the whole time, and keeps you from almost getting that monotonous, like, on the back. You always have to think about just getting up and over those barriers.
Wow, like they have people like our age to do that stuff? Is that just something that you just get into and then start kicking everybody's butt at it?
Yeah, it's so much fun. It is sometimes hard to find track meets that have steeple, because not all tracks are built with the water pit. Because it is a newer event. I don't
think I've ever seen one.
It's only been run in the Olympics for the past few Olympics. It's not even that old.
Okay.
It is sometimes harder to find access to a track that has that. But yeah, so I'll just enter into some open track races. Sometimes we'll go to some invites and just kind of get in there and see what I can do at the steeplechase.
You have high hopes? You have good chances to win them, I'm sure of that. But even higher hopes, maybe get into the Olympics or something?
So my coach, like I said earlier, he has always lofty goals for me. He wants our goal, which I agree, to be trials for, he said it'd be wonderful we could do trials for marathon and for steeple. So we'll see.
I think both are doable for you. What did I miss during this conversation? Anything that I should have asked that I didn't?
Oh, I don't know.
We've only been talking 30 minutes. I'm sure I missed a lot.
The part where I did die in Dallas.
What?
That hill at, 18 and 19?
Yeah.
That got me. That definitely killed my pace a little bit. But I recovered better than I did in Houston. I've been telling everybody that this one hurt, and I did definitely hit that wall, but not as bad as I did in Houston. So to me, that was a big goal, was just not let the miles catch up to me as much as they did in Houston. I also could not get my last gel down, so I didn't take any nutrition in after mile 18, which I definitely planned to take more.
It's a little dangerous, but
yeah,
I mean, it's hard to get it down like that.
Yeah,
I
was like, there's no way anything is going down right now. So I was like, we're just gonna,
especially something sweet like a gel.
I was like, I just need to get into that finish line. So I think the end was all about survival, and I had no clue where the second place female was. So I was just telling myself, I was like, you cannot lose this now. You cannot give up now. So I just kept grinding.
I think mental aspect of a marathon is real. It's not that, hey, if you're out of shape, you have to be in shape to run a marathon, but there's also that mental aspect, especially 18, that'd be tough to start dying. But certainly around that area, 18 to 22, you're just going to have to find something to give, and it's really awesome that you get to do it. You know, one of the things I was going to tell you is if you start getting into trail running more, especially the longer distances, they have nice aid stations. It's not just full of gels and stuff like that, right? Like they'll have tacos or some breaded stuff or whatever. You know.
I do much better with food. I've actually been playing around with making my own gels, changing the consistency. I wasn't ready to...
They have those honey gels that are supposedly decent.
And I've tried, there's a brand that's like maple syrup based
Yeah.
for those quick. They're actually better. Everyone always says it is better than you think because it's
Oh, man.
thinned down.
Take it and be like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I got syrup in my mouth.
But I am playing around with that. So maybe by the next marathon, I will have my homemade fueling.
So it sounds like that you're just going to do something. One, you're going to get married. So that's a big deal for the next few months. Obviously, that takes time and effort. I'm sure you'll do some running, but you definitely need it for mental kind of stability. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you already know this, but you're going to do some steeplechasing type stuff and then think about the marathon maybe after you get married. Where are you guys going for your honeymoon?
We're going to Curacao.
Wow, that'd be fun.
I know, we're very excited. We're going for about 10 days. So the funny thing was when we were looking at resorts, the first thing I was looking at was the treadmill situation.
Exactly. You should.
Yeah, there's going to be, I can't help but run. Even taking 2 weeks off right now, I'll still go on runs. It just won't be training, it'll just be running. But definitely time to sit down with coach, figure out our 2025 plan and what that looks like going into thinking about trials in the next couple of years.
We'll have to talk before all of that again because that's really exciting and big, lofty goals. I love it. I'll be watching you for sure. I'm on your Instagram now and we had this great conversation. So thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to another DFW Running Talk. Please rate and review us. This episode will be out soon. So, Erin, thank you so much and congratulations on your second marathon win in Dallas.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Chris.
All right. Take care.
Thank you too.